All right, I'm gonna just ask you some questions, like, okay, so if you were gonna give advice to a young person, what kind of advice would you give a young person? Things that they should do or shouldn't do to make their life more worthwhile?
First on the list would be, don't experiment with drugs. None. Unless it's something prescribed by a medical professional. That's the main thing. And don't tell lies. Because you tell one lie and then pretty soon you're telling another 5 lies to cover it up.
That's awesome.
Like a politician, right?
So what do you feel about Canadian politics?
I don't think I better say anything.
Oh, you're too old for them to come back and get you.
What I would have to say is, no. I kind of read that or heard somebody said something like that. It kind of stuck in my mind. They're all the same, but they're cut from different. They're cut off the same block of wood, but they're a wood, right? In other words, they're blockheads. But they paint different colors on themselves, so they represent different things. So, a politician is a politician is a politician. No matter which way you look at it, he's still a politician. Grandma used to tell that Albert, when he was little, he never cried when he woke up. He'd always just lay in the cradle in the carriage and look at the ceiling. He never cried, he never wiggled, you didn't know if he was awake unless you look at him. She said he's going to be a politician or what is it she said? A lawyer. A lawyer or a politician. Because he's a deep thinker. He wakes up and he doesn't cry, he doesn't cause a disturbance, he doesn't attract attention to himself, he just lays there and looks up at the ceiling. So, is that a politician? Kind of. Yeah. It suits.
Right? You grew up in Regina, right?
On the farm in that picture over the bathroom door, behind the vase over there, there's a picture. That's the farmyard where I grew up.
What was it like growing up?
Very lonely.
Very what?
Very lonely. Because there was no such thing as radio and television and cell phones and all this. You made your own fun. Which, when your nearest neighbor is a mile or 2 miles away, there's not so much choice. The ones you're in school with, you see them every day, but when you go home from school, you go home to your own family, and if your family is small like mine was, what do you do? Twiddle your thumbs or chase the hens around the yard or play with the kittens in the barn or whatever. You find different things.
You've seen a lot of things invented over the last many years.
Oh, yes.
So what do you think about that?
I'm not home. Where's the damn thing? I shall repeat that to her. Yeah. Now, I can get along without the nap sometimes. Depends what else is going on. Okay. Yeah, we'll see you later. What time? A dessert? Okay, no banana, thank you.
Chocolate cheesecake.
Did you hear that? Chocolate cheesecake. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. See you later. Bye.
So a lot of things have changed in your lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Quite a few.
What are some of the inventions that have made life different, and how do you see them having an impact on us?
Well, you know, when it comes to inventions, that covers so many different topics. They're all important, but they're not all important to everybody. This one might be important to me, but my neighbor down there wants nothing to do with this. So every new invention is important to somebody, but not to everybody. So I think pick and choose. Pick what you want and leave the rest alone. Let somebody else worry about it.
What was telephones like when you were growing up?
Telephone was a thing on the wall that had a receiver thing that you had to pick off the hook and hold it down here by your ear, and then spin the dial around and get the operator to call whoever you wanted to call. That was my first felt when we had a phone on the farm when I was a kid. Well, most of the neighbors didn't, so we took messages for a lot of the neighborhood because everybody knew that ours was the only phone in the area.
Wow.
The neighbor has an accident with his horses and gets his leg broken. His family gets a hold of us and we call the doctor. And the doctor comes to the house. You didn't have to go wait to see a doctor in an office. The doctor came to the house. With a horse and buggy, usually. Which would look very out of place these days. Right? Yeah.
So what do you think of these new phones with a smartphone?
I don't have one, and I'm almost afraid to think of getting one. I think I'll just, the years that I've got left, whatever I've got left, big or small, it's going to be with that kind of phone, the old style. My brain doesn't want to accept too many new ideas now. It's getting old. It's getting tired, like an old worn-out machine. And there are some things you can't replace new. Yeah. That looks like a little mouse.
It does. It's one of those new fandangles machines. So you've seen the car go through a lot of changes as well.
Oh yeah, quite a few. Yeah. Yeah, my dad's first old vehicle was an old truck. I think it was a Star. I think that was the name of it, Star truck. And there was nothing, you couldn't use a car in the wintertime unless you keep the battery in the house. And you just take it out and put it in the car when you want to go someplace. And you couldn't stay away very long because the battery's going to freeze and you got no way to get back home. I remember my dad lugging batteries back and forth. And the first car that we had, it was a Model A Ford. 1932 was the year of it, I think. We didn't buy it then, we bought it. We paid $475 for that old car. And it was an old thing, like hardly operable. But it was $475 and we had the cash, we just paid for it. And now I would have to stop and think. If I got $475 to spare on an old car, probably not. But if I wanted it bad enough, I'd go and get it anyway, wouldn't I? There's always a way of getting something if you haven't got the money. You just gotta want it bad enough. But you should not just want it, you have to have your mind made up that you're gonna pay for it. Somewhere down the road, you're gonna pay. If you don't intend to pay, then you shouldn't be making the deal. If you haven't got the cash right now, at least you gotta see where you're gonna have the cash to pay for it. I think it's younger generation gets over indebted to card companies because it's too easy to get the card.
That's true.
I've always been scared of credit cards. They're handy in an emergency, but they should be kept for emergency use. No. I can't swim, so I like to keep my head above water. financially and otherwise.
That's a good tip.
Yeah. Now, somebody asked me one time years ago, well, how come if you're so scared of water, how come you've been flying over 2 big oceans and you're not scared to be flying? No, doesn't bother me. I'm way up there, 7 or 8 miles up in the air. If something happens to that plane, I'm going to be dead before I hit the water anyway, so I'm not going to drown. Right?
That's true.
I'm not going to drown. That's the only way to look at it, or else I'd be scared to fly. And I never was scared to fly.
You had a business most of your life.
I had business, well, no. Most of the time in preschool, yes. But what do you call a business? It's something you do to trade for money, right? So I guess I had a sewing business for many, many years. But it was just, I sold things for my friends and neighbors, and sometimes I saved the money to pay for a certain item I wanted. Sometimes it just went into the general pocketbook and spent for potatoes or whatever.
So tell me about your trophy business you had for years.
Well, I covered a big area because nobody else for many, many miles around was doing that. So I kind of had a monopoly on it. Not because I tried that way, it just happened like that. Gradually. At least I had 23 years I was doing trophy work. And I was always able to have a surplus in the bank account enough to pay the taxes once a year on my house. That's mainly what I wanted to do. As long as there's enough profit from there to pay the taxes, then I'm good. So I was working a lot cheaper than I had people. A couple of people came from Saskatoon to get me to do engraving because it was too expensive in the city. Yeah. So I was developing a reputation as far as Saskatoon. Which I didn't really appreciate, but it happened that way. It was a way to make use of a big empty basement. Gave me the excuse to have a second phone, because I needed one downstairs, eh? Now, I still have that second phone. It's on the sewing machine in the bedroom. And when the power goes off, that's the only phone that works. Because that one doesn't work with the power off.
Would you have any advice for business owners today?
Advice for them? Well, I think it would be very easy to get over budgeted. Because it's too easy to get things on credit. And you don't really have the wherewithal to pay it back. And if you charge something, somewhere down the road you gotta pay for it. That kind of worries me. Because I see younger people getting too far in debt. Some of my own family members are guilty as anybody. Maybe even you. I don't know. I have no idea what your finances are. I could be sitting here talking about getting over budgeted, and you could be $500,000 in the hole, and I wouldn't know. And I don't want to know. It's not my business to know.
Well, fortunately, it's not that much, so you can rest.
That's good. That's good. I can breathe easy again. Okay.
So you got some young grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
Yeah, and great-grandchildren. One.
That's right. So if you were going to give some advice to your great-great-grandchildren, what would you tell them?
About the same thing as I said to that other question. Don't tell lies, and don't experiment with drugs. Alcohol is bad enough, but drugs are really bad.
Mm-hmm. Would you tell them to vote?
Well, I've always believed that if you don't vote, you have no right to complain. So vote. And I don't care which way you vote, but you vote. Because then you've got a right to holler if something is not right. I like to do a lot of hollering sometimes, but there's nothing I can do. I'm just one. But this one adds to that one, and that one, and that one, and pretty soon that one is more than one. So it does matter if you vote. If you don't vote and then you complain, well, what are you complaining about? Why didn't you vote? Right? That's how you get the authority to complain, by going vote. And how long does it take? Just walk in there and sign, mark an X somewhere on a ballot. That's not hard to do. Only so many people don't do it.
It's true. You had some hobbies over the years. What were some of your favorite things to do?
Hobbies! Oh, goodness gracious. Hobbies. Well, I guess doing the cross-stitch embroidery would be one. Reading. Because I used to read lots. Till my eyesight went bye-bye.
What were some of your favorite books?
I never did go for love stories. That's garbage. That doesn't mean anything to me. I like true stories. And then even on TV, I like to watch things that are true. Things that really happened, and not what somebody dreamed up in a nightmare. Like Star Trek. No way, I want nothing to do with that. And everybody else is so crazy for Star Trek. Well, no way. I don't care, because that didn't happen. I want to see what really happened.
Do you think society could be heading towards something like Star Trek in the future?
Well, God knows, maybe they will. I won't be around to see it. And for that I'm thankful. Because I don't think I would want to. No. That's too far-fetched, too far off on cloud nine someplace. Maybe someday that will happen, but that'll be somebody else's doing, it won't be mine.
Do you have any advice for young women?
Young women? Well, one thing for sure is go to school and get a career. Because in these times, a wife just about has to be working for a family to survive. I never did work out of home, not because I didn't want to. The opportunity was not there. When you live out in the bush, 35 miles from town, where is the opportunity for the wife to go and work? Babysitters aren't unheard of, you know. You've got babies of your own you're looking after at home. And if you're not there, who's going to look after them? So you can't go out to work. You're stuck. You're stuck to cooking when you don't like cooking.
Did you like cooking?
Nope. Never did. Never did like cooking. Cooking for me was the basic. Meat, potatoes. Meat and potatoes, that's it.
You like to make cookies?
I guess. Yeah,
you must have just made cookies because you loved us.
Well, yeah, I like cookies. Actually, I think the making cookies came from the husband who always had a lunch pail. For 32 years, he was carrying a lunch pail. And cake is a crumbly, messy thing in a lunch bucket. But a handful of cookies, they kind of stay together. They don't break up and leave a mess. So I think that's where the cookie idea came from. It makes more sense than a lunch pail. And he didn't like the cake because he'd be eating it as crumbly. So yeah, cake at home, but in the lunch pail, cookies. Makes more sense. Not so messy. So who's messy now?
What was one of your favorite times in all these years? What was something you really enjoyed?
Oh my goodness. Well, I know in the summertime we used to kind of look forward to, I forget what they called it, but it was once in the summer, the place where my father delivered the milk to in the city every day. It was called Purity Dairy. It is no more for many years. It hasn't been. But once a year they had a picnic at a lake someplace, handy, where people could get without fancy vehicles, on a Sunday. So it included all the staff from the business in the city and all the shippers that supplied the milk. So that would pretty well take in the whole the whole area, you know. Everybody had something to do with either a dairy or a farm. We used it. I remember I couldn't swim, but I liked to play in the water, and I got full of bloodsuckers. The damn suckers were in the water, and nobody realized they were there until I happened to stand up from this pond that I was sitting in, and everybody was pointing at me, and they were all over my legs and my arms, these little black spots, and as you look at them, they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. They're sucking my blood. I'm telling you, I got out of that water pretty darn fast. The other kids all got out pretty fast too after. Bloodsuckers. Ooh. I guess they have a proper name, but that's the only name I ever heard for them. They start like a little dark colored spot, and as you watch it, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
What's your favorite animal?
Oh, I think a cat. Like for a pet, you mean? I think a cat. Because dogs require too much attention. Cats, they kind of look after themselves. Or they can if they have to. And besides, you don't have to go and clean up a yard from a dog.
What's the worst mess you ever had to clean up?
Oh. Worst mess. I don't know, I think that must have been some of the kids when they were little and made a real big mess. I can't. Well, I don't know, that would have to be it, I think.
What's the best story that you've heard or that you like to tell?
Story? Something that really happened or something somebody made up?
Either. It's a good story.
Huh. Well, let's see. Well, my mom used to talk about the trip that they made with an old car. It wasn't a Model 8 like our old car was. It was the original Fords that had isinglass windows that rolled down. I don't know what it was called. It was an old car, and it was my sister, and my mom and her young sister, and the guy that ended up as my dad, and her mom's father, my grandpa. And he was older and didn't want to try attempting a drive from Regina to the Dells, Oregon, through the mountains. Because that's where Mom's oldest sister was living. She was married and living there. And Grandpa apparently decided to go and spend time there in the Dells with Elma. But he didn't want to attempt to drive that way by himself. So that must have been 1920, 21 or something, somewhere in there. Because him and my mom were married in 1923. So it was before that. And so the two men, Grandpa and my dad, sitting in the front seat of this car, and Mom and her sister Regina on the back seat. And all the luggage and everything had to be piled in there around their feet. There was no trunk on the car or something. It was just there. And that's your belongings, piled with you in this old car. Imagine how uncomfortable that would have been. Yeah, really uncomfortable. Because the seats weren't cushioned like they are now. It was like a bench with a cushion over it. That would be terrible. And the roads weren't like they are now either. They were just ruts through the mountains. Followed the trail the moose made when he was running away from the wolves. That must have been a terrible trip. And my dad got a job right away. They were building a big school, a red brick school. And he got a job on there because he's from England. He was a stonemason, he was called. He was a bricklayer, you know. And that was his training in England. Yeah. They ended up, they'd been together so long, I guess they figured they better get married before somebody starts talking. Or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, they got married and ended up back in Regina trying to get Lucy back. He was married before. His first wife died in 1916 when that flu epidemic, Spanish influenza, went through and killed a lot of people. So that's when his first wife died, and their little boy, William, he was about 8 months old. But Lucy was 3.5 or something, 3, 4, something like that. She didn't even get sick. But her mother and her little brother both died. So then Dad's left with this little girl, and he has to have an income. So when he hired on with who turned out to be Grandpa, my mom's dad, signed on with him to do that driving, he was paying this Mrs. Weedmark to take care of Lucy while he was gone. And he never thought that she could be such a cheat. When he showed up back at Regina to try and claim Lucy back, to take her to live with him and Mom on the farm, she claimed that you never paid for her, so possession's 9 points of the law. She's my girl now. You can't have her. So my dad went to a lawyer in the city to try and get her back. Of course, he picked the same lawyer she had. So he had to look for somebody different. I think that must have been a big shock to him, right? Out of all the lawyers that were there, he had to pick the same one that she had. So they wasted about a year trying to get her back. Or maybe it was more than that, because I remember Mom saying that when they did get her, she was 9 years old and she weighed 34 pounds. That's all she weighed when she was 9 years old. That's just like starving to death, you know? That's all she weighed. When they finally got her, Dad had to take milk to the city every day. So he made a deal with the old lady there that he'd take Lucy out to the farm just for overnight. Bring her back the next day when he comes in. He never took her back. He took her to the farm and she arrived there with the clothes that she had on and not one toy. Nothing. She wanted to take a favorite doll with her and the old lady wouldn't let her have it. The clothes she was wearing, that's it. And she never went back. Then Dad had possession, right? You see, he never kept any receipts. For all those years that he was sending money every month for her to stay there. He never kept a receipt, not even one. He was too trusting, you know?
Well,
But he got her back. And she's the one that ended up with 8 children on a farm, including twins. Just 7 boys and 1 girl. The twin is a girl. So she is my only real blood niece. The others are through John's family, you know, that group. But from my side of the family, Beth is the only true blood niece.
cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, Lucy had 8 children, 7 boys and 1 girl. And her husband was the youngest one of 6 boys. So he lived to be 100. He was 100 in July, and in August he passed away. He just made the 100. She didn't quite make it. She was 99 in May and she died in November. But she didn't quite make the 100. And she was 34 pounds at 9 years old. And that's Lucy.
I have one more question for you.
No, what?
Just one. We might think of other things, but right now I want one more.
Okay.
If you were going to tell, let's say, this is your big chance here because we've got a camera and you get to say whatever you want.
And then if I don't like it, I can tell you, get it rid of there.
We can edit it out.
Edit it out.
If you were going to leave a message to the family when you're gone,
Yeah.
is there anything you'd like to say to the family? Anything you'd like to have them remember, do or not do? Look right at the camera.
A message. Well, I think a message would have to be at least once every day, find something you really have a good belly laugh over. Because I've been told that a good roaring laugh is as good as 20 minutes exercise. So that would be my message. When you're an adult already, find something to laugh about every day.
You have been retired for many years.
Yeah, retired. Okay.
How many years have you been retired?
I don't know. 30?
So what have you been doing in all these 30 years?
Living. I did a lot of traveling. I did a lot of driving by myself. And this was through the Legion, through the auxiliary. I was allowed my name to stand for election to the zone officials. And I ended up that I had to go. The one I remember most that made up my mind to quit was Christopher Lake. I had to go to a meeting at Christopher Lake, and nobody else from this area was going, so I had to go myself, and I had to start back in the middle of the night from there. And I'm by myself. And I thought, this is crazy. So the first opportunity that came along, I backed off from that position. Didn't ever want to go back. You see, other women that had those jobs, they had a living husband that would go with them on these trips. And I had no husband. And I wasn't going to take just anybody with me for company. So I quit the job. I had to, for my own sanity.
I just thought that was a great question because so many people, they look forward to retirement and some of them don't make it very long afterwards, but you've been retired for 30 years and that's really an accomplishment.
Well, I think, see, it's almost 30 years since your grandfather died. So, by the time he was gone, gee, that's so long ago, a whole lifetime. He died too young. 69. That's too young.
You still had a lot of fun times in you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I think that's awesome.
We used to dance and
Sure.
spend a lot of time dancing. And then all of a sudden I don't have my partner anymore. So I quit going to dances. And now with my body, my whole body is old and falling apart now. I haven't got the energy to dance anyway. So.
What do you think about smoking? Should young people take up smoking?
No. No. The reason I did was Deanna was a baby, and I'm living out in the goddamn bush. Nobody for neighbors except wolves and bears, and a moose once in a while. I got so heavy that I was anemic, and the doctor ordered some iron stuff for me, and I ate that. I took that iron for a month, and I put on so much weight that I couldn't wear any of my clothes. I was just like a big balloon. Deanna was a baby. So what was I do? Then I remembered when my mother had broke her ankle, and she was so heavy, the doctor told her, your bones were meant to hold about 150 pounds, and here she was 280 as she broke her ankle. That's what the doctor told her. She should be a lot less weight. And he asked her if she smoked, and she said no. And he suggested that maybe a cigarette once in a while, or a puff on a cigarette, might take away the urge to eat. And I remembered this, so that's when I started overeating. And that's when I had a balloon of a body, and I started smoking because I remembered what the doctor had told my mother. So Jean was always a smoker, but he never was a heavy smoker. He had a can of tobacco there and papers, so I just rolled myself some kind of a lumpy cigarette, lit the damn thing up, and I just about fell over dizzy with the first few puffs I had, but I persisted and I kept smoking. There. That's my smoking story. So don't ever be sick or to suck it into something like that. It just leads to trouble down the road.